Why instant runoff voting is so resilient to coalitional manipulation. Phase transitions in the perturbed culture. This paper deals with 3 voting rules. The first is plurality, where the candidate with the most top votes is elected. In this example, there is a group of 36 voters who rank candidate C1 first, followed by C3, C2, and C4. So they vote for C1. Similarly, there are other groups of voters with diverse preferences. The plot on the right shows the candidate's scores with C1 as the winner. However, the 2 groups of voters on the right can see that by strategically voting for C2 instead, they make C2 win. Since they prefer C2 over the original winner C1, they have an incentive to do so. This phenomenon is called coalitional manipulation. The second rule is the 2-round system, where the 2 candidates with the most top votes advance to a final runoff. Let us examine the same voting profile as before. Candidates C3 and C4 are eliminated. Their supporters transfer their votes to C2, making C2 the winner. But let us go back to the original situation. If voters from the first and fourth groups strategically vote for C3, then C3 wins, and it is in their interest to do so because they prefer C3 over the original winner C2. Thus, this situation is also coalitionally manipulable. The third rule is instant runoff voting, where the candidate with the fewest top votes is eliminated in each round. Let us examine our usual example. First, candidate C4 is eliminated and its votes transfer to C3. Then C2 is eliminated, making C3 the winner. In this particular case, it can be proven that the situation is not susceptible to coalitional manipulation. Not all voting rules are equally vulnerable to coalitional manipulation, as shown by previous empirical results, such as the Netflix dataset. On the x-axis, we place different voting rules. On the y-axis, we represent the CM rate, defined as the proportion of voting profiles susceptible to coalitional manipulation. Experimentally, IRV stands out with a very low CM rate. However, this was not well understood theoretically until now. In this paper, we analyze a simplified model called perturbed culture. Each voter's preference is drawn independently. With probability theta, they have a fixed preference ranking, C1, then C2, and so on. With probability 1 minus theta, their ranking is chosen uniformly at random. In the extreme case where the concentration parameter theta is equal to 1, all the voters prefer C1, making the election immune to coalitional manipulation. The opposite case, where theta equals 0, corresponds to the classical model of impartial culture, which generates more disorder. Intermediate values of theta capture varying degrees of preference concentration. Let us examine the behavior of plurality. On the x-axis, we plot the concentration parameter theta of the perturbed culture model. The y-axis shows the CM rate for plurality. For n equals 1 voter, plurality is not susceptible to coalitional manipulation. As n increases, the curve steepens and takes on a sigmoidal shape. When n tends to infinity, the curve tends to a step function. Thus, there is a phase transition with a critical parameter theta c. For smaller values of theta, plurality is coalitionally manipulable with high probability. For larger values, it is not. Theoretically, we prove that this phase transition occurs at theta equals m minus 2 over 3m minus 2, where m is the number of candidates. For the 2-round system, the behavior is similar, but the critical value of theta c is lower. This means that the 2-round system becomes resistant to coalitional manipulation more quickly than plurality as preference concentration increases. For IRV, we show that the critical value of the concentration parameter is equal to 0. This means that even with minimal preference concentration, IRV is resilient to coalitional manipulation with high probability. To demonstrate this result, we introduce the concept of a super Condorcet winner. Let's illustrate this with candidate C3 from our initial example. In the full profile, C3 has more than a quarter of the votes. In each three-candidate sub-election, C3 has more than a third of the votes. And in each two-candidate sub-election, C3 holds more than half of the votes, thus satisfying the classical definition of a Condorcet winner. Together, these conditions define a super Condorcet winner. This concept is central in proving our theoretical result for IRV in perturbed culture. We also show that in empirical datasets, it accounts for IRV's resilience to coalitional manipulation in the vast majority of cases. Thank you for your attention. For more details, please refer to the paper.